very fascinating to me, not only because of what I do at Memory Matters, but because my father has mild cognitive impairment. And so it gave me insight into what my father is going through. And because my father is a very, he's a proud man. He's a retired minister, retired Air Force. And it's hard for him, difficult for him to talk about the struggles that he's going through. So it really, you know, I read a lot, I teach a lot. I've been doing this for professionally for a number of years, including working in secured memory care units. But it's different when it affects your family. All right, so what else do you know about Memory Matters? So we have our education, we have our respite. Does everyone know what a respite is? It's a fancy word for a break. It gives a caregiver a break. And so in 1997, there were two women in the church that went to Reverend Greg Cron's here on the island at St. Luke's Church and said, Pastor, we have a problem. And that is our caregivers who are caring for someone with memory loss, they are getting burned out. How can we help? And in his wisdom, he said, let's do something about it. And so from that church, we offered caregivers a break by dropping off their person, their loved one, their partner to us, so the caregiver could go and take care of themselves, take care of their responsibilities. Because it's a 24/7 job. It's a 24/7 job. Even if you have help in the home, it is 24/7. So that's called a respite. We are still offering a respite and caregiver support on and off island. That's one thing that has changed as we've grown. We are just like you, trying to take our services to where people are. And whatever side of the bridge they're on, we try to go to that side of the bridge. Okay? What else? What else do you know about Memory Matters? Yes?
You can do evaluations for people to help them understand what degree of problem they have.
Right. So that evaluation, I'm going to give you a little less scary word because testing, evaluation, I don't know, that test word has a high anxiety for me, but it's a screening. It is a free baseline screening. 15 to 20 minutes. We are very low tech. We use a freshly sharpened number 2 pencil with an eraser. It is confidential. We can meet you. I have had screening days here at Moss Creek. I'll be glad to offer that again, where I just keep appointments going throughout the day, meeting with you, 15 to 20 minutes. You get the results right away and a copy of the results to take with you, to share with your doctor or not. That's entirely up to you. But it's a really good talking point to share with your doctor. Now, Medicare gives us a very quick assessment, which is good. It shows that the federal government is paying attention to cognitive health. However, this screening tool that we use, we believe it's the gold standard. It is called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. Acronym is MOCA. This is what we use, and it is more comprehensive than the Medicare screening. All right, so it is free, totally free. Okay. Anything else about Memory Matters that you already know, whether directly or indirectly?
Excuse me, that assessment, is that to determine what degree of memory loss, or what is it trying to accomplish?
Okay, and what's your name, sir?
Sam.
Sam asked, what's the goal of it? Does it diagnose? Does it give you a degree or range of the memory loss? It is non-medical. It does give a range. Okay? It lets us know what areas of the brain are firing on all cylinders, what areas are maybe we are struggling with, like maybe our short-term memory. Yes? Yes? Yesterday I had my name tag on all day, 3 meetings, and someone said, Debbie, your name tag is on upside down. Now, was that lack of memory or memory loss or focus? Lack of focus, okay? Which is why we developed a course called Brain Boosters. It's 6 hours over 3 weeks. We've held it here before with strong attendance. We'll be glad to come back. We have a course about how to exercise your brain, how multitasking affects your brain, how stress, lack of sleep, vision, hearing, exercise. It's a deep dive into how to care for your brain. So to answer your question, Sam, it is not a diagnostic tool, but it is a measurement that you can share with your physician, your primary care physician or your neurologist, and be able to have that conversation. What areas are actually strong and what areas maybe need to be focused on. And it is a tool that local neurologists use. Anything else about Memory Matters?
Do they have support groups?
Yes. We have support groups. We have one for men, one for women, and co-ed, online and virtual. Now, about that respite program, let me speak real quickly to a fairly new class we've added. It's Early Memory Enhancing Class. This class is for people like my dad, still driving, still goes to church, still goes to his favorite gas station where he now makes the coffee because he thinks he works there. They're still living their lives, but they're losing their connection, their association with people. Because when you physically change, especially when your brain changes, people tend to isolate. And not only do they isolate because of the embarrassment, maybe they are repeating themselves, maybe they're forgetting words, but also the spouse or family member. It changes the socialization for them as well. So we offer a class, Early Memory Enhancing Class, for people that are in this category so that they can know that they're doing all they can to be proactive about their brain health. And we also offer a course for caregivers. It's called Savvy Caregivers. Has anyone in here taken it? So if you know someone that's a caregiver or you're a caregiver, Memory Matters is the only organization in the state of South Carolina certified to teach this course. It is offered online as well as in person, and we have one coming up June the 18th. So, I think you've covered it. I don't have a whole lot else to say. Yes?
So your caregiver respite program, is that just for caregivers of people with dementia or Alzheimer's? Or say you're a caregiver to somebody who has Parkinson's, or a caregiver to somebody who doesn't have a memory issue, but they have other health issues. Those people need breaks too.
Well, one thing the sheriff said is that when you have that human point of contact, it gives you an opportunity to share resources. So if you come to me or ask someone, a friend or neighbor to, why don't you have that memory screening? They offer it, it's free. You've been concerned, it'll give you a chance to talk to Debbie. Okay, so they come, we have that conversation, and there are a lot of resources for Parkinson's disease affected people in this area. So to answer your question specifically, it is for a person caring for a person with dementia. However, Parkinson's dementia is a type of dementia. Yeah. So, but if they come to us, a caregiver comes to us needing help, we have Family Services Navigator, We have dementia care specialists that can help them with resources, find resources in the area. So one thing, you said you live in a community. I want to point out a red flag. If you have a friend or neighbor or family member who is withdrawing and isolating, they are now not socializing, that is a red flag. And although we knew that that is, has a negative impact on the brain, we really saw it during the pandemic when people were isolated, how it affects a person's cognitive function. So any way that you can direct them to us to help them battle that isolation, because isolation is like smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. It has a negative impact on the brain. And so our day program and our early, our memory enhancing classes, we try to partner people, you know, make new friends that mirror them, make new connections, new support, and avoid that isolation. I did a social experiment when I went home, went to see my dad over Memorial Day. A lot has changed, needless to say. One thing that has changed in the last 6 months is that he is now spacing out more. He is detached more. And the speaker that I mentioned, Sam Samuel, talks about that, what that feels like from a brain's perspective. But I noticed that that's increased. So at Memory Matters, what we know is that a brain lights up, literally, under a PET scan. It lights up and is energized when it connects with other people. So I took my dad to church on Sunday night, and that day he had been so detached. I tried everything. I mean, I do this for a living, you know? Took him to church, and that's his home. This church is his home. He lit up like a light bulb. He prayed a public prayer in front of 100 people, didn't miss a beat. You would have never known there was anything amiss with him because he lit up and was energized by the socialization. It's very, very important, as well as maintaining a purpose in life. So attending our classes also gives a person a purpose. So we've covered all of these things. If you have a group you'd like for us to come and give a presentation to, whether it is on memory loss or safety or brain health and wellness, just let us know. Okay, so here's a test. What's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's is a type of dementia.
Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. There you go. Dementia is not a specific disease. It's an overall term. Alzheimer's Association refers to this as an umbrella term. For example, if I say I have cancer, well, what type of cancer? I like candy. Well, what kind of candy? So it is an umbrella term, symptoms that are affecting a person's daily living. And in the senior health industry world, that is known as ADLs, activities of daily living. Whether it's they're no longer able to take their medication or to shower or to feed themselves, the loss of memory and association has impacted their daily living and ability to live independently. So there are over 100 types of dementias, over 100. Alzheimer's is the most widely diagnosed. That's why you hear about it the most, and people often get confused about dementia, the word dementia and Alzheimer's. So I just wanted to clarify that. Here are some tips. This is where I want the Sheriff's Department to partner with me, and I asked Eric how good he was at improv, and he just had this blank look on his face, so he has no idea what I'm about to do. But what I want us to do as the Moss Creek community representatives, the Sheriff's Department, Project Lifesaver, and Memory Matters, and residents. I'd like for us to have a conversation advising us on how we should respond and not respond when there is an elopement. That's what it's called, when someone exits the safety of their home, elopement or wandering. Okay, so do you have any tips for us if this happens to our neighbor or it happens to us in our own home? What are some do's and don'ts on communication, on who's the first person we call? Do we call 911? You know, so I'd just like for us to kind of have a real-time conversation about the do's and don'ts.
So you're talking about a family loved one is gone to a point where their
Missing.
cognitive is getting a point where they may not recognize anyone in the home anymore. And they're getting angry and frustrated because they're just all hyped
They
up.
want to go home.
They want to go home.
They want to go home.
They don't realize they're home already.
Correct.
Okay. So law enforcement wise, when we respond, obviously that's that altered mental status in the sense of they're just so hyped up and not focused. You know, they don't understand. They may not understand where they're at. They may not understand who's with them. It could be a loved one that they don't even recognize anymore. So that's the approach when you call as a loved one. I'm dealing with my husband, my loved one who's going through some kind of altered mental status. They don't know who I am anymore. They don't realize they're home. Give those details to the officer so when they're responding, they know what they're going into. They know that this person may have a point where they don't realize where they're at. They don't realize anybody they loved ones. And those questions you have to ask that caregiver, that family loved one is, okay, if they're regressing, who do they think they are? Where do they think they need to go? So if they're originally from Syracuse, New York, when you respond, you know, oh, you're trying to go back to Syracuse. Where in Syracuse do you live? It's that conversation to try to go back. It's because they're regressing, right? We talk about Alzheimer's, how you regress in the Alzheimer's field of that memory. They may believe they're back with their first wife, you know, which can be a problem. You know, so that loved one, or that might be they don't recognize their kid, that they don't, now they're thinking that their child is 20 years old or 15 years old when they're really 40 years old. Now, you know, you're not little Johnny. Little Johnny's only 20. He's still in college. He's going to Yale. And I mean, so then you talk to him. Oh, well, tell me about Johnny and, you know, about Yale. What year is he? You try to figure out where they are and try to get back to their memory they're at right at that point. Not tell, oh, you don't know where you're at right now? You're back at your home right now. You don't attack them. You have to go and relate to where they're at in that setting of their mindset. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff.
Excellent, excellent. You meet them where they are. Meet them where they are. First of all, pause and take time to find out, where are they? Are they in New York, Ohio, back in college? Where are they? Because family members, humans, typically our default communication is to pull them into reality. Our reality. Now, it does not work. It sounds like you know.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Been there, done that.
I just live in his world.
You live in his world. And what is that? What does that mean? You live in his
Advanced
world.
Alzheimer's. Sometimes I'm his mother, sometimes I'm his wife. Occasionally I'm his ex-wife, and he's never had me once, so it's weird.
You know, exciting.
You should see the look on people's face when he introduces me as his mom. I'm 105, look really great for 105.
And that is the best advice. That's the best advice, is to meet them where they are. I do want to encourage you. Now, did you automatically know how to do that, or did you learn it the hard way?
Trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Okay. So here are some tips, 10 tips, and I have a bookmarker back on the table for you to take with these tips on there. You're welcome to take a picture. But it's not only for the person with dementia. It's for you. It's for your neighbor who might be a caregiver. Because Your stress when you're trying to redirect and argue is just ramping up. Ramping up. Now the redirection you talked about, Lieutenant Caladine, that is de-escalation. That's a good thing. If we had time, I'd show you a video, but I will reference her, Teepa Snow. Teepa Snow. If you know someone that needs more education, she has YouTubes that are very helpful. And so the YouTube I was going to show you, she's talking about de-escalation. So before you get to the point where there's an elopement, where there's wandering, where there's an explosion in the grocery store, go ahead and be thinking about a mantra. I've even used this during trick-or-treating at Halloween. I saw a gentleman, he was getting agitated. I recognized some other symptoms of dementia, and I went to my mantras, my sayings. So instead of waiting to be in that situation, go ahead and find something that would de-escalate a person. Maybe it's just the tone. Maybe it's just, I'm sorry, this is hard. I'm scared too. It's okay, I'm here. But most people go through a lot of energy and stress and trouble to come up with a way to fix it, redirect, and bring that person into reality. When we know who to call, who our support people are, you have internal support here, which is wonderful. You have the Sheriff's Department. Memory Matters is also a supporting charity organization. My biggest piece of advice is if you know someone that is going through this, please help them not go through it alone, because we can help them. If nothing else, just hold a hand and listen. Thank y'all so much. Any questions? Yes.
I wanted to add on to one thing you spoke of.
Yes.
You were asking a question about in the moment, when someone is in that moment, and what do we do when we respond?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are in Project Lifesaver, when we collect your personal information, we can generate a address advisory. So if law enforcement, if security has to respond to your address, we can put anything and everything under that address. So when a deputy has to go to your address, it pops up and it says, be advised, dementia patient, be advised, dementia Parkinson's, be advised, any type of patient that would be there. So the deputies going have a heads up of what they're walking into. So they know that this is not someone who may be dealing in reality at the time, they may be in another place. And we can add anything you want to. We have advisories for HIV, we have advisories for bed bugs, we have advisories for hospital law enforcement, we have advisories for extremely heavy person, for the fire department that may need to deal with them in a medical sense where they're extremely heavy, so you're going to need a lot of people for a lift. We can add anything you want to. So if you have a family member and you decide that you want to add this to the address, you can. That just gives us more tools that we can use when we arrive at the house. And then we know what we're kind of walking into.
Thank you for adding in. And I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, I'm going to stay here for a little bit. Thank you so much.
May I add as well, we talk about knowing the individual. If you see somebody who you believe might fit this category and you don't know them or they don't know you, do yourself a favor and try to stay with them. Call us, obviously. You want to get the person who can be with them, the trained individual, whether it's security until we can get, law enforcement involved or, counselors, anything of that nature. But try to keep them in your sight, stay with them so that they're at no point do we not know where they are. If they have Project Lifesaver, that's one thing. We're going to know where they're at. But for those who haven't, just try to keep an eye on them, talk to us, your cell phone, we're at such and such location, just so one of us can stay with them until we can hand them off to the, either to their family member or if they need to seek additional assistance.
Yeah, we've also had an instance where someone wandered and the spouse thought they could find them and they didn't contact security, and they were handling it by themselves, and it was starting to get dark, and it got scary for them. So if there is that instance, the first thing is to call for assistance.
And let us know, because we know the community. We know the community like the back of your hand. We have residents who live, on Moss Creek Drive. They've never been back to Cedar Lane. They wouldn't know what Cedar Lane looks like. It's your own community, but it doesn't mean you know it like the back of your hand. We've been through it, and the more information we have, the more information we can provide to law enforcement. We do it medically, we do it for the fire department, we do it for law enforcement. The more information, the better. So it's not just a loved one that you know, it might be your neighbor, someone you care for. Yes?
And if I could just say to everybody else, I moved my parents in here in August of last year. My father has dementia, my mother has Parkinson's. But when Chief Albano came over, I also talked to the Sheriff's Department about putting them on the program. We weren't there yet. But when Chief Albano came over, he did a tremendous job of talking about what it was going to be like. And the smartest thing that we did was give them a picture of my father.
Absolutely.
So that if my father ever got out and started wandering around, they had a reference as to what he looked like, etc. So if you have someone in those circumstances, it's the simplest thing of all. Just give them a picture of what they look like, because it can reduce.
I would recommend every caregiver, support person, family member. It's a book from John Hopkins called The 30-Hour Day. It's a really good resource on how to react to an Alzheimer's or dementia patient.
And if nothing else, sing.
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 Oh, don't encourage my wife to say
The most, the strongest story I have about de-escalation technique. I tried everything in the book, trying to de-escalate a new resident with Alzheimer's. Nothing worked. She was a former choir director at her church. She was agitated. She was hitting and striking the professional caregivers. And then I remember reading her bio, her story card, and I asked the caregivers to wait at the end of the hall. I stood halfway down the hall and started singing, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. She started directing us like we were her choir. Now that's not going to work every time. The next day we had the doctor call in regarding medication, but be creative. Give yourself permission to use music, art, conversation, reminisce when you're in that moment with someone to help calm them down. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.